death of Harambe.
I remember it.
It's one of those things that I tried not to involve myself in as far as like thinking about it or anything like that, because the situation was tragic no matter how you look at it. You never want a kid to fall nowhere. You never want somebody to have to cap an animal in the zoo that hasn't broke out of captivity. Like Harambe just was there. Mm-hmm. And that whole situation was just negative. And then it became a meme, and so nobody would shut the fuck up about it. And so my whole situation surrounding with that ordeal was like, I'm going to try to ignore this as much as possible because it's heartbreaking, and I have more positive things that I can focus my attention on. And I also don't want to sit here and make light of something like that and talk shit about it, because, I mean, when you're talking about kids, it's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, I don't really remember. It's been a long time, so I can't remember if he, like, tried to crawl in there or if he just fell.
I can't remember either.
Regardless.
But it does suck that the gorilla had to get, put down because of an accident that happened.
Right.
Like, it was one of those situations where, like, nothing was, like, anybody's fault.
Right.
Really. Nobody wanted this. So, yeah, sad. But I know it was for a lot of folks, a lot of younger folks, it was like the first thing that they really had any kind of activism about or cared about in wrongdoing in the world. And I was just like, man, y'all are in for it.
Right.
The more that you find out.
Yeah.
If this is the one that's got you rocked, don't read any history books. But yeah, Harambe was a real situation. That
definitely made light of it with all the memes.
Big time. But I mean, the same could be said for 9/11 and many other things. But this one was just one of those. It was odd that it became such a big deal to people in that way.
There's a thing going around right now. Not that it's related to Harambe, but it's like one man versus
100 gorillas.
100.
Yeah.
I think.
No. Yeah.
100 men versus
gorillas,
not one versus 100. God, that would,
I've seen the simulations. Have you seen them?
No.
Where they have like the wars, and then you see people getting flung around. By gorillas.
And then I've also seen the like how many Americans versus British people.
Yeah.
I don't know why this is a thing.
I don't, because people. Anyway. Why is skibbity toilet a thing?
Why is skibbity toilet a thing?
Do you know what the answer is? You roll the dice enough, stupid shit's gonna happen.
Which is what happened with this, I think.
So here you go. We have one of our favorite content creators, high on the list, I would say top 5. Sure. Casual Geographic put out this video, why Harambe's death was the right choice for the wrong reasons. And I'm interested to see his take on this. Because the hype has died down substantially. I mean, it's almost like a long lost memory for a lot of folks. So now I can figure out about what the fuck went down and feel good about it.
I could be wrong, but for some reason, and it could be a different story, I was thinking, and I feel like I'm mixing this up, but I feel like maybe the mama was like, yeah, totally, look over that, like, and I could be mixing it up with something else. For some reason, I feel like he shouldn't have been where he was.
How many times as a kid were you somewhere you shouldn't have been doing something you shouldn't have been doing? All the time.
I don't remember.
Yeah. But anyway, let's check out what Casual Geographic has to say about this, because I don't know. Was it the right choice? I don't know.
That the Harambe kid either is or is about to be a teenager. In a couple of months, it'll be a year short of a decade since the gorilla was prematurely perp-walked off the census. And despite being named after a Swahili term for coming together, Harambe's death has been no less divisive. But the closer you get to the full story, with crucial context, the question becomes less of whether the zoo was right for turning the legacy of Bob Marley into a hashtag, and more of everything that went wrong to force the zoo to pull the trigger. Because Harambe's death was the right choice for the wrong reasons. Now hear me out, I'm not blaming the gorilla, in fact quite the opposite. Literally everyone involved but the gorilla ultimately failed him, and in about 10 minutes I'm gonna show you just how horrendous Harambe got done. The same 10 minutes it took for them to end him. Flashback to 2016. Eggs were $1.68, a light skin in Under Armours was no-scoping entire teams, and Kanye was still Kanye. When he made graduation, all was good until a 3-year-old canon event changed the course of mankind. On May 28, 2016, a mother took 4 children to the Cincinnati Zoo and got to the Gorilla World habitat when the youngest boy said he wanted to go swimming with the gorillas. She went back and forth with him and then turned around to start putting kids in strollers when she heard a splash, followed by immediate screaming. Like any other human, she went to the railing, and that's when her mind took an indelible screenshot when she realized,
Cincinnati 911. Hi, my son fell in the zoo exhibit at the gorilla. There's a male gorilla standing over him. I need someone to contact the zoo, please. He's dragging my son. I can't watch this.
In an unfortunate case of free will, the 3-year-old climbed the 3-foot fence, army crawled through 4 feet of bush, and before anyone could grab him and save the timeline, he fell 15 feet straight into the gorilla moat, where he was confronted by 450 pounds of adult primate. Harambe didn't seem especially aggressive, but watching him ragdoll the toddler likely took years off his mother's life. No one could say what was going through the gorilla's mind at the time, but we know what went last, because at about 4:10 p.m., about 10 minutes after the boy fell in, a member of the Cincinnati Zoo Dangerous Animal Response Team life-retired Harambe with a bullet to the head. And life as we knew it was never the same. The slain simian was mourned by millions and memed by even more, to the point where there are people who use their right to vote on the corpse of a Kennedy gorilla, and that is the most political statement that will ever come out of this channel. But before we can judge what had to be an impossible decision, it's only fair to look at every angle, starting with the nature of gorillas. Gorillas aren't the menaces to society and skyscrapers we thought they were. Male gorillas are way more child-friendly than the average orang and chimpanzee. It's been said that the males that babysit more are considered more attractive to a tribe of hairy women. That's how they got their name. And being good with kids is more of a turn-on than size, strength, or status. It's proven that guy gorillas on daycare duty will have 5 times as many children as those that avoid it, which is probably why they fight so hard for custody. You've never seen a gorilla hit the burners like that. But gorillas don't need Maury, they'll even step up for children that aren't theirs. A couple years back, the alpha gorilla of a group in Rwanda got sick, and since in sickness and in health is a human construct, the 4 gorillas of the group left, abandoning not just their baby daddy, but their progeny as well. With the infants barely old enough to feed themselves, it should have been curtains. But this story had a plot twist. The sick male had a brother, Kubaha, and Unc stepped up and looked after them. They'd sleep in his nest, treat him like a literal jungle gym, and he single-handedly kept the next generation up. And Kubaha wasn't an anomaly. In 53 years of gorilla research, it's proven that orphan mountain gorillas that lose their mothers early on don't have a greater risk of becoming a statistic because the males will often step in. Not only did a different study show the exact opposite happens to baby chimps, monkeys, and baboons that get the Bambi treatment, even if they do survive, they inherit 0 social rank and virtually no chance at having children. It's the same story for animals like elephants, orcas, and hyenas. Being motherless is social cyanide, but not gorillas. Having one mom short of a full house, oof, has 0 effect on their social status, and it's believed that since mama gorillas often dip out before their babies mature, the males have evolved to cushion the blow. Plus, with chimpanzees murking monkeys, bush babies, that's a bush baby, and even doikers for food, and even the good vibes tree hippie known to turn lorises into lunch meat, gorillas pretty much being knuckle-walking lawnmowers probably doesn't hurt Harambe's case. Gorillas go out of their way to avoid conflict, and you really won't see them beating on something weaker than they are, unless they did something to deserve it. But there's always a but. The rules of nature often change when you're talking about captivity. A wild orca has apparently never depulsed a person, but those confined to a glorified fishbowl have a body count. Pandas normally mate, date, and procreate no less than the average black bear, but those in captivity often get less play than Helen Keller's Spotify. In captivity, mother gorillas will often reject their own babies, and it happens a lot more than you would think, so maybe the parental instinct doesn't apply as much to a gorilla behind the glass. Yeah, no, because if I had a nickel for every time someone's son ended up in a gorilla enclosure, I'd already have 2 nickels by the time player number 3 decided to keep the tradition alive and airdrop himself to the gorilla grotto. On August 16th, 1996, another 3-year-old fell nearly 24 feet into the Brookfield Zoo gorilla exhibit. In a scene you've definitely seen before, 8-year-old Binti Draw climbed down to the boy, cradled him in her gorilla arms for nearly 60 feet, and gently placed him at the employee entrance where officials could get him. But what you might not know was that Binti was one of those gorillas rejected by her mother and was hand-raised by humans. Part of this raising meant her caretakers had to train her to be a mother once she became pregnant with the same baby riding shotgun while she rescued the boy. Part of this training included handing off her baby to staff for checkups, so there was low-key an argument as to whether this was an actual gorilla guardian angel or just an animal doing what it had been trained. Well, almost a decade earlier in 1986, 5-year-old Levin Merritt followed the same script, falling into the gorilla pit and knocking himself all the way out. And 25-year-old Yumbo stood protectively over the boy, gatekeeping any other gorilla from him, and when the child regained consciousness and cried out, instead of matching his energy, the silverback calmly led his family to a small hut on the other side of the enclosure. But unlike Binti, Yumbo wasn't human-raised or trained in childcare. This was actual gorilla free will that looked after after the injured kid. So now you might be confused, because if you were on the fence on the Harambe happening, hearing about their social psychology and the gorilla history lesson would have surely kicked you onto the Harambe side. Well, every gorilla is different, so let's talk about the story of Harambe. Before he became a hashtag. Harambe was born in the Gladys Porter Zoo in Brownsville, Texas, May 27, 1999, meaning he had just turned 17 when he got sniped. Just like Binti, he was also rejected by his mother Kayla when he was only 3 weeks old. So, zoo director Jerry Stone hand-raised Harambe, taking him home. The tiny gorilla was by all means his family. Jerry was actually the one to help Harambe's grandparents settle in after they arrived from Africa, and he was even there at Harambe's birth, cutting the umbilical cord. He changed diapers, got up at midnight to feed him. Nobody had put in more Harambe hours than Jerry. Jerry described him as a lovable troublemaker. He'd do things like throw water at female keepers and run away. He'd steal blankets just to give keepers an excuse to chase him. He'd even climb walls to get his keepers' attention just so he could fall backwards and make them catch him. By every account, Harambe meant well, but there was a point where Jerry stopped getting in the cage with him. Not because he was aggressive, but as he got bigger and stronger, there was a legitimate chance he could accidentally roughhouse Stone into eternal submission. But Jerry also noted that Harambe always looked after his siblings, fully embracing the big brother role. But on January 6, 2002, before Harambe was even 3, someone left chlorine cleaning tablets way too close to a space heater, causing a leak of toxic chlorine gas that suffocated the gorillas. Zookeepers immediately called EMTs, and by administering oxygen, they were able to revive 8 of the gorillas. But there were 3 that never woke up: Harambe's mother, brother, and sister. Yeah, Harambe got hoed by humanity long before Cincinnati. Speaking of which, almost 10 years later in 2014, Harambe was now 15, and time came for him to be relocated to hopefully start his own troupe. Jerry actually pushed for Harambe to be sent to Cincinnati, that way he could contribute to their breeding program, and in September, the gorilla named after a Bob Marley song was transferred to the Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Garden, and less than 2 years later, he would exist only as a statue. So there, now you have more background information than 90% of anyone who's given their opinion. Everything so far points against Harambe being a threat to the toddler, yet experts like Jane Goodall, Jack Hanna, and primatologist Franz de Waal all seem to agree the zoo made the right choice. And I'm with them. Harambe had to die. But why? Basically, it was the best of a bad situation. A lot of people say tranquilizers, but tranks don't work the same way they do on TV. It can take 10 minutes to take effect, even longer when the animals turned up. There was a story of 2 polar bears wandering too close to town in Churchill, Manitoba, and the first bear was slept and put in polar bear jail. Yes. But the second bear had no reaction to the same trank. If anything, it probably made him mad. But the real reason tranquilizing wasn't an option. This is Cha-Cha the chimp. Cha-Cha went full Caesar and escaped the Yagiyama Zoo in Japan, and I want you to see what happened the moment he got darted. That man was a second away from becoming an Instagram reel. Animals don't understand the concept of anesthesia, but they do understand getting shot in the back, and in those 10 minutes to take effect, Harambe could have been the most dangerous gorilla outside of Hollywood. The next option would have been trying to have a keeper rescue the kid while distracting Harambe, but here's the thing. The moment the kid fell in, zoo officials signaled for all the gorillas to come inside. The 2 females complied, but Harambe, he was also using free will. Clearly he wasn't in the mood to cooperate. The last argument is that Harambe wasn't hurting the kid. In fact, it looks like he was protecting him. I actually agree. I think the father instinct was doing a lot of heavy lifting, but here's the thing. Harambe was a 450-pound immature teenager who never had a kid or was trained for it. He could have killed that kid completely by accident. This isn't 25-year-old Yambo. Young gorillas play rough, and 1 hard pull could rip his arm out of the socket, and 2 hard of a drag could bash the 3-year-old's head against a rock. Also, Harambe was clearly stressed out. The situation was a time bomb. The little boy freaking out and screaming, suddenly running away, or even just looking Harambe in the eye could have been enough to light the fuse. And speaking of time, don't forget, that kid was in gorilla custody for 10 minutes. Might not seem like much to you, but let it be your bloodline. 10 minutes will feel like and cost you 10 years. Now, what they should have done, in my non-professional online opinion, was get anyone who wasn't a keeper, paramedic, or zoo vet get him out of there, form a perimeter, something. I feel like all this could have been avoided if you didn't have a whole coliseum yelling at my mans. Silent game would have been golden, but at that point it was too late for all that, and so the last option meant erasing an endangered species and future father. I don't like it, you don't like it, nobody's happy, but let's be real. Think about what the conversation would be if that kid became a chalk outline right there. Well, I can tell you, because it's happened. November 4th, 2012, Pittsburgh Zoo. Mother lifts her 2-year-old over the railing for a better view. Mother ignores several warnings and signs. Mother somehow lets child slip, and Maddox Durkosh fell, bounced off a safety net meant only for phones and cameras, and touches earth inside the enclosure. Problem was, the toddler landed with the African wild dogs. the most efficient pack hunters in Africa, the ones infamous for turning body to buffet before it can pass away. Look, I can spare you the details, just know it was quick, it was gruesome, and there was nothing anyone could do. The Derkashas would file a wrongful death lawsuit against the zoo, seeking $300,000 because you can't put a price on life, but you can pay a lawyer to try. The family and the zoo would reach a confidential settlement. The endangered dogs were all relocated, except for the one shot by cops, and the entire exhibit was repurposed for another endangered African predator, the cheetah. You know, for the longest I thought the zoo got screwed, but what I never knew was that in May of the same year, some of the same wild dogs dug out of their den and got the entire zoo put on lockdown. And as early as 2007, a member of the zoo safety committee explicitly warned of guests dangling children over the exhibit opening and advised them to install plexiglass to cover it. But no changes were made until a kid got eviscerated 5 years later. Now don't think I'm letting the mom off, I got a lot of thoughts. And they're all explicit, but the zoo was liable and negligent, and it cost them and the dogs, even though common sense would have saved the day. But common sense would have been a godsend on Christmas Day 2007, San Francisco Zoo. Look, we've all heard the story of Tatiana the venge-lusting tiger, so here's what we know. 3 guys, 17-year-old Carlos Sousa Jr. and the 19 and 23-year-old Dhaliwal brothers taunted a Siberian tiger. Pine cones and sticks were likely thrown at the tiger. The brothers' father admitted that the boys were drunk. Tatiana escaped, murked Sousa, and mauled the brothers until she was eventually shot by cops. And the Dhaliwal family settled a suit against the zoo for $900,000, and the Sousa family settled a wrongful death suit for an undisclosed amount. And both brothers would use their second chance at life to get into several run-ins with the law, one including a drunken fight with police, and the younger brother would pass away in 2012 due to unknown causes. By every metric, they fucked around and found out, and the 2 that lived came up almost $1 million off it. But 2 things can be true. The zoo screwed up bad because days after the attack, they said the moat Tatiana had escaped from was at least 20 feet tall. Turns out it was 12 and a half, a full 4 feet lower than federal safety standards. And if you know tigers, that is one fuck of an oopsie. But also, after killing Sousa, Tatiana tracked the brothers down. But because cafe employees refused to let the 2 in, the Siberian Fury pulled up outside the cafe and mauled them again. It took 6 full minutes for zoo employees to realize that the brothers weren't drunk idiots screaming. They were drunk idiots screaming, but not lying about a tiger John Wicking them. And because the zoo was under a Code 1 lockdown, it took another 5 minutes for zoo security to let police and fire units in. Those extra 10 minutes mean a lot when you're actively getting turned out by a tiger. And it probably would have saved Sousa's life. 2 things can be true. Tweedledee, Dim, and Dumbass pissed off an apex predator and earned themselves a nomination for a Darwin Award while getting an endangered species past tense in the process. But the zoo was also painfully negligent in every aspect, especially since just a year before, keeper Lori Cummigan was mauled by the same tiger while feeding her through the enclosure's grill, and Tatiana's temper tore the skin off her arm, resulting in several surgeries, skin grafts, and California OSHA fining the zoo for safety violations. Lori would also sue and would also settle for an undisclosed amount. And after Tatiana's final act, the zoo would raise the barrier from 12 and a half to 19 feet. So you see, the zoo and Harambe were screwed the moment someone spawned into his enclosure. And really, Harambe was dead the moment he chose free will. In fact, if that child would have died, Harambe certainly would have been past tensed, all the gorillas might have been packed out, and the zoo would have been sued beyond oblivion. The zoo would modify Gorilla World by raising the outer barrier and loading up on netting and fencing, but the real victims here were Harambe, the child, and gorillas as a whole. And as much as I want to dump on the mom, well, the internet's kind of done that already, but kids are walking kamikazes. Not excusing it, cause damn it, watch your crotch and the things that come out, but you don't think a kid will, till they do. And mama, I love you, I really do, but when I was about knee high, my mom turned away for a second at the park, and when she turned back, she saw me on the other side of a pond leaning in. And if both my parents didn't go Usain Bolt and catch me before I fell in, well, we know how that story ends. I also almost got kidnapped. And I only say that now because my mother never lets me forget it. But yeah, that's gonna do it. Drink water, hug your mother, hold your kids. They're stupid. Rest in primate Harambe, and I'ma see y'all in the next one.
Weeks I have been waiting for this day, and it has finally arrived. We have the winner of our contest. It's the Naming the Baby with the Gladys Porter Zoo, and it's the baby gorilla. And we've got the baby gorilla right there. Dan, that's the child you just named.
There's Harambe.
Harambe is her name. Once again, what does it mean again?
It means pulling together, coming together, sharing and caring about one another.
And what is that, like Swahili?
It's a Swahili word, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's tough.
So before I watched this video, I was like, it ain't the zoo's fault. It's the parents' fault. And now that I know what I know, it's like, it's both. It can be both.
This is the reason why when I go to the zoo, I am not fucking around and trying to lean over, put my hand and arm or anything else in nowhere. Like, I will not just expose myself to these animals. Look, I feel like I need to be hiding even when they're behind glass. Especially tigers and shit. You get some like big cat situation.
Yeah.
Hell no. I mean, we've got average sized cats and they've done fucked us up.
It's true.
It freaks out. If you're holding him and he freaks out, you're
We
clawed.
both have
You're
scars.
mauled. I mean,
My legs have, like, I literally have like this scratch on my calf that's like 3 right across horizontal.
So then multiply his size by like
Holy
10.
shit. Holy shit.
Fuck that.
Yeah, so it was a pack of dogs.
Oh yeah, that murdered that kid.
Not a gorilla. I remembered the one from the 80s. I don't remember the one from the 90s.
Well, I mean,
the gorilla fall.
That part about, gorillas and the males impressing females by how well they take care of kids, or just, if they're abandoned by their mom, the males still stepping up and taking care of the kids and everything, like that being so specific to them, you would think that there would be more hesitancy to freak out and not try to like, hey, come over here and get some of this food we know you like, or like talking to them, and instead of like
get
shoot
inside
them, but like try something.
Well, they did.
But I mean, try
hey,
something to immediately, not just come on, like, you know how short he is.
Who
We
knows?
can be
Maybe
yelling
they
for
did.
him, and he can know exactly what we're talking about and not want to show up.
That's true.
But the moment we dangle some food that he likes, he's gone.
Well,
or a toy.
We
or
don't
something.
know the full details, and maybe they did. And it didn't seem like he was being threatening or anything. He did kind of drag him by the leg and stuff, and like he said, like, could have hit a rock. Like, anything could happen.
That's the one thing that kind of changed my mind about the situation, was learning that he was not yet mature, so that he might be more rough.
Yeah.
And being a little bit rough from a gorilla to a child is like,
right.
can be the end. So that's where I'm like, I concede on that fact.
I don't know about killing him. I know, but I do understand. Like, my mind's like, of course you would just trank him, and it's like, oh, it doesn't work like that. People screaming, oh hell no.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here.
Get the fuck out of there.
Evacuate everybody out. But I mean, what?
Yeah.
Once you've notified authorities, I wouldn't want to even be there to see anything. I'm out.
Honestly, like,
I'm gone.
I don't even know what it's like to have a kid, but my ass would have probably fucking Superman dove just down in there.
Yeah.
And like, just shielded him.
I mean, fuck.
Whatever.
Knows,
like, I couldn't.
Definitely a situation where I guess the benefit of the attention that came to it might have, at the very least, made it to where zoos will update their, boundaries and
the regulations.
Just making
abide
sure
by
that,
the regulations that are already in place.
The whole thing there is like, the whole point of a zoo is to be able to observe and learn about animals and help, endangered species procreate and
keep them safe.
Keep them safe,
healthy.
It's not really about how close we can get to them.
Yeah, that's true.
So as long as you can get away to get a good visual on them and be in the same general area enough to see them and study them and stuff, leave them the fuck alone. Why do we need just nets over top of it? Like, we don't need to be getting to the point where we can smell their fucking shit,
or
like
be flung at where there's that video.
Yeah.
That grandma getting hit in the face
Oh
by
my
the poop.
God, it's so horrible.
Killed me. I
Was that a
don't
chimp?
think I've laughed so much. I think it was a gorilla.
I don't know if it was a gorilla.
I think it was. I don't remember.
Maybe.
The last one where the boys like teased
when
the
that
tiger
came after their ass.
Listen, I don't think that it's okay, but I do think it's funny, and I don't think it's funny that I think it's okay that they wouldn't let them in.
Help you, motherfucker.
It's like, sometimes
These
get what
drunk
you
assholes,
deserve.
like,
right.
it kind of reminds me of like Jurassic Park in a way. Some of that shit.
Oh my god,
But,
a fucking tiger?
Yeah, I'm not fucking around with a
Oh my
tiger like
God.
that. Hell no. It makes me not even want to go to the fucking zoo no more, to be honest with you. Like, fuck no. No. Hell no. But yeah, there you have it. I've learned more about the situation today, and I guess I understand. It's tragic.
So
but
tragic.
what are you going to do? It's a baby. Child in that situation. You got to save them somehow. Let us know what you think down in the comment sections. Do you have any words you would like to say about Harambe?
I have one more thing.
Yeah.
I have one word. Can I put?
Yes.
Can I interject?
Yes.
So that child is grown up now.
Mhm.
That is a fully functioning adult person.
Yes.
And they have to live with that.
I mean, that's a whole another level of complication.
Anyway.
I wonder if that he likes Donkey Kong. You think he can
That
play
is not
Donkey Kong?
appropriate. That is not.
Donkey Kong Country is one of the greatest games to ever exist.
His PTSD
ruined?
is so bad that he can't play Donkey Kong.
I don't
That's
know.
so fucked up.
See y'all.
Bye.
Bye.